Hampshire presidential primary. You've heard about it and probably know it happens every 4 years.
Now you'll hear why New Hampshire holds the first presidential primary in the nation and how this tradition impacts the state and the nation.
Made by students, for students, this resource is the result of a grant from the History Channel's Save Our History program.
The New Hampshire Political Library partnered with students at Londonderry Middle School
so that New Hampshire's future voters will understand more about New Hampshire's primary tradition.
Being one of the smallest of the 50 states, how did New Hampshire become the first in the nation primary?
It all goes back to the basic form of government in New Hampshire, started more than 2 centuries ago, the town meeting. In New Hampshire, with no income or sales tax, most budget decisions occur within towns where everyone has a say.
So, what does this have to do with New Hampshire's presidential primary? Well, because New Hampshire citizens participate in the town meeting every year, they expect to have a say in their government, whether it be at the local, state, or federal level.
Since 1776, when New Hampshire's colonial government ratified the first state constitution, New Hampshire citizens have enjoyed more representation at the state level than any other state. 1 state representative for every 3,000 citizens. The New Hampshire House of Representatives is the largest legislative body in the United States outside the U.S. Congress. If California tried to have that level of representation, they would need to have more than 11,000 state representatives.
Whoa!
Because New Hampshire citizens have always had a say in all aspects of town and state government and participate in elections so frequently, it is not surprising that New Hampshire citizens wanted a greater voice in the presidential nominating process. In 1913, State Representative Stephen Bullock introduced a bill to allow New Hampshire voters, remember, only men at this time in 1913, to vote directly for delegates pledged to presidential candidates. Previously, party bosses chose those delegates in closed meetings.
Bullock's bill became law, and in 1916, New Hampshire held its first primary.
Yeah!
But it was not first in the nation until 1920, when New Hampshire's primary moved to town meeting day in March.
As frugal Yankees, New Hampshire citizens didn't want to heat and light the town halls more than once in the spring. New Hampshire didn't set out to be the first primary. It just happened naturally, given how our local government works.
There's a reason why it's here. It was never taken from any other state. It came here naturally, like a tree growing in the forest. It was not planned to turn into what it turned into. There was simply a way of letting more people have a chance to be part of the process.
By 1952, New Hampshire residents began to vote directly for presidential candidates. This change to the New Hampshire primary law encouraged presidential candidates to directly meet and speak with New Hampshire voters.
The primary elections in New Hampshire for delegates to the Democratic and Republican national conventions find candidates and campaign managers pulling no punches. Everyone is in there pitching in an endeavor to gauge the mood of the American people. This is the first real popularity test for the favorites, and Senator Robert A. Taft comes to New Hampshire to make his bid. It was the nation's first presidential primary, and a record one. And when the ballots were totted up, it was a clean sweep for General Eisenhower on the Republican side and for Senator Estes Kefauver heading the Democratic slate. New Hampshire has spoken, and experts are looking for more straws in the political wind.
People often become confused when speaking about primaries and caucuses, the two types of presidential nominating contests.
A primary is a regular election where you vote in a booth by a secret ballot. In New Hampshire, our primary is run by the state. A caucus, however, is run by the political parties and consists of open voting by party members. No one's vote is a secret.
The Iowa caucus is the most well-known caucus in the U.S. and has been the first caucus in the nation since the 1970s.
Beginning in the 1960s, with the growth of broadcast television, people across the U.S. and the world began to see how New Hampshire voters get to meet and speak with presidential candidates.
That cause fails all over the world. If we succeed, the cause of freedom succeeds. I do not know any time in the life of this country when a comparable responsibility has been placed upon the people of the United States. And therefore, what we start here in New Hampshire today, I believe must succeed next summer and next November. And therefore, I want to express my appreciation to you and ask you for your support in the primary this March. Thank you very much.
Other states have tried since the early 1970s to be the first primary contest every 4 years. Florida, Delaware, and Michigan are a few of the states that want to hold the first primary and experience what New Hampshire does. Is that really possible? Next, we'll explore what actually happens during the New Hampshire primary process every 4 years that other states wish they could experience.